happy video day, guys. So for today, we're going to be doing a ranking video, and I've been seeing these videos going around. A lot of people have done them, and I said, you know what, let me do it too. But I know my video is not going to be I'm not going to have as many palettes in my video because you guys know I have my series Make Up Your Mind, where I kind of really evaluate before I purchase a palette to see if I own similar things, see if I like the color story. So I've been very selective on hitting that buy now button because I'm really like dissecting the palettes before I actually purchase them, which has really made me stop myself from buying a lot of crap, adding a lot of repetitiveness to my collection, and just buying stuff just to buy it, or just buying a completely neutral palette that just has one pop of fuchsia in it and saying, oh my goodness, I have the best palette ever. I've been doing Make Up Your Mind for, I think it's gonna be a year in October. So I've been doing Make Up Your Mind for a while. So I have really cut down on eyeshadow palettes, and I will say that the palettes that I have in my collection, I truly love. And this year, besides the fact that I've been doing Make Up Your Mind, I personally think has been the most uncreative year of eyeshadow palettes ever. We'll talk about that in another video because I am just shocked by some of the stuff that has released this year. But this video is going to be ranking, and I'm going to rank what I purchased this year. There's not that many palettes, but these are the ones that made my list. So yeah, we're gonna go into this. We're gonna rank every single one of these palettes. I'm gonna tell you guys everything about them in case you guys are interested in any of them. But if you guys are new, I'm Christina Brooke. I would love it if you would hit that subscribe button, become part of the family, join it now so you guys can see my videos, and definitely check out my Make Up Your Minds in order to kind of help you decide before you purchase a palette. But let's get into this ranking, and I'll show you guys everything right now. This is difficult, guys, because there's palette here that I like the most, but then there's also other palettes I just think were the best of the year. So when I'm doing this ranking, it's going to be because I think it was the best. Not every single one of these released this year. One of them I actually purchased super late to the game, but I love it. So let's start off with the last one. So the last one is actually pretty surprising to me. I didn't think that this was going to fall so low, but at the end of the day, I need to go by what I have been using the most, and also the color story that really has caught in my attention the most. And the last one is going to be the Paris Edit. So the Paris Edit is down here. I mix my Paris Edit and my Dark Edit together to make one ultimate palette. The reason I use the Paris Edit more is because I have the Dark Edit. But if you just purchase the Paris Edit on its own, which is these very light tones, what ended up happening for me personally with this palette is I feel like some of the tones are just a little too light. So sometimes when I'm using them, I really need a deepening shade. I really need to mix it. So at the end, this palette ended up being a palette that I need a mixer with. So adding the Dark Edit to it really makes it a lot easier to use. But at the same time, I'm going to say that I do think that the Paris Edit could have used a little bit of deeper tones in it to really make it put together better. I also think that some of these very light tones were a little bit repetitive. I think they could have done a little bit more with the palette. After you use something for a pretty long period of time, you really kind of get to know whether you love it or not. And I will say it's not a bad palette. The quality of the shadows are good. It's just not one that I see myself gravitating to. I usually just use it as I need to have a beginning shade. Let's grab the Paris Edit. Or I want to do something really cool with the Dark Edit. Let's use the Paris Edit. That ends up being the reason I use Paris Edit. So I don't think that that is a real reason to want to use a palette as the add-on palette. The next one is going to be one that honestly, I just don't think it was curated amazing. It is from Dior, and it's the Rosewood Neutrals. I really like a lot of the looks that I create when I'm using this, but I think that this palette was also very repetitive. I think that a lot of the colors in here should have been different. Like, I love the purples here, but I think that they should have put more dimension between the colors. I feel like when you start to use it, if you're only using 2 shades, you can come out with a pretty look. But if you use any of these 3 like next to each other, your look just basically turns the same color. I hate it when palettes do that to me. I want enough definition between colors that when I use two colors together, they don't blend into one. I feel like they could have gone in a very different direction and done almost the same exact palette, but given me more that I could have worked with. I think the price on these shadows is definitely overstated for what you get. I do think that other brands have very good eyeshadow formulas and they're not charging as much. And I just feel like it just wasn't perfect. That being said, a lot of the looks that I create when I use it, I actually really like. I think that they come out very pretty, but I already kind of know how to maneuver this palette. I will never use any of these two shades next to each other. Even this one, I have to jump all the way to something like this. I cannot use a lot of these colors together. And I've also noticed that I like a lot of these colors. They're very pretty. But to mix them with like another palette, like for example, the Paris Edit, put like two of these shades with colors in the Paris Edit, I can do something very unique and pretty. But as a palette on its own, so the next one, I'm gonna put this guy right here. So this is the Marc Jacobs Extravagance palette. You guys know I was very excited to get this one. At the end of the day, I ended up realizing that a lot of these tones are kind of similar to palettes in my collection, and I probably didn't need to buy this one, but I did like all these colors together. Now I'm going to say that one of the problems that I'm having with this palette, even though I still do like it, is that a lot of the mattes, there's not many mattes in here. And I guess I'm somebody who really likes to work with mattes, and you notice that as you get really into makeup. I really love mattes. And I feel like just having these three mattes was not enough for me to make a lot of different looks with this palette. There's a lot of shininess going on here that is very beautiful, very eye-catching, really amazing. When you go to buy a palette, this calls your attention and you're like, oh, I love all those shininess. But at the end of the day, I do realize that a lot of the looks that I create with this palette look similar because there's not enough mattes to make it look different. It's a very pretty palette, amazing formula. It's just not up there because I'm limited, and I do feel like I have not been able to create all the looks that I have wanted to. And I do also feel like this palette is a mixer palette for me. I like to mix it with other palettes to really create that perfect look. Now we're getting into the palettes that I really honestly think it's difficult for me to really separate them and tell you which one's the best, because I do think all of these are very good. But I'm gonna have to go with the next one with the Mini Glam. Now the Mini Glam, I can't remember if I bought it in December or if I bought it in January, but I'm gonna put it in here because I think I bought it at the end of December, beginning of January. So this palette here is beautiful. I love the quality of it. I love the cool tones that it gives you. I love this palette so much. The only reason that it's down there is because it's a very cool tone palette. Sometimes I don't want to do an entire cool tone lid. I also feel like there could have been maybe one less shimmer in here, or if it was a metallic, I wish they would have given me something a little different. Give me something unique that really matches this color story instead of just making it so neutral. That would have gotten me very excited. I would have been like, wow, I love this brown. This brown is so gorgeous. I use it as a liner sometimes. I use it for the outer edge. It literally is the most beautiful brown. The metallics in here are super, super gorgeous. But like I said, I didn't need both of these. I really wish that one of these was something even more unique. Maybe like a camel tone that had like really cool reflex in it that kind of went with this color story, but it was like a metallic. Something unique, different that you go, oh my goodness. I'm not saying put in a fuchsia in here and just call my attention. I'm saying do something different with the colors that you have and give me something that I've never seen. I feel like all of these are very, very beautiful, but I do feel like I wish there was just like one thing a little bit more unique about this palette. But it is a very, very good palette. It gives me beautiful looks. I love mixing this palette with other palettes because it's just like the perfect everyday look. That's what this palette is, and I love it. So this one I almost feel like putting all the way up on the top, but I'm not going to because I've used it a few times already, and I have noticed that even though you can create a few different looks with it, you know, you have a certain look that you're going to end up with, and that is the Cutting Edge from Dose of Colors. Gorgeous palette. super beautiful. I'm completely obsessed with the looks that I create with it, but it's a deeper palette. It gives you very dramatic eyes, gives you that green that I'm obsessed with. I do feel like I'm missing in my collection a certain palette that I'm still waiting for it to drop, and it hasn't dropped yet. It's close to this one without a grunginess. I want it to go more this route. And it's just, I haven't seen that palette yet, but I do really, really love this palette. I love these three lash shades right here are just amazing. These two are very pretty too. I just, honestly, this color right here is just not something I grab as much. I wish it was a little bit more champagne. This one is a very cool, grungy green, but if you have the Metropolis, you have this color, you have something super similar to it, and if you own Metropolis, then you probably know this is the color you use probably the least out of Metropolis. It's a very cool color mixed with this one. So when you use this palette, it actually works really, really nice, because in Metropolis, I feel like what I'm missing is a color like this one to mix this color with, and this palette has that, so it works a little bit better. I feel like this color story works better together. This color right here is amazing, like amazing. Oh, and the last two, it's so hard. It really is. I'm gonna put this one here, the Soft Glam, because it's not a new release. That's why I'm going to put it here. Other than that, honestly, you get every single color you can ever think of. I really think that this is just like an essential palette in a collection. I think that if you're somebody who doesn't want to have a million palettes, this is the palette that you should buy. You've got your everyday, you've got your winter, you've got your drama, you have everything in one palette with amazing formula and a very well thought out color story that when you start to apply it, you start to realize how well thought out this is, and I really love it. I think it's a beautiful palette. I did buy this late to the game, like I told you guys. I always eyed it, I always wanted it, but I was one of those people who said, oh, it looks boring. And at the end of the day, I realized that sometimes things that look boring are actually going to be your favorite. That's what this palette is. It's not the palette with the fuchsia thrown in it. It's not the palette with all the diamonds everywhere. It's not the one that you're gonna walk by and you're just gonna, wow, I want it, and it's gonna sit in your drawer and you're gonna forget to use it because you realize you never use those colors. It's not that palette. This is everyday, super easy. Anybody can use this. If you are not good at makeup, if you're good at makeup, I feel like everybody will love this. So this was new to my collection this year. I don't regret buying this one bit. Like, I feel like I would buy this over and over and over and over and over again. So I didn't put it in first place because it's not really new this year. It's new to me, but it's not new this year. So I have to give this guy the love and the everything that it deserves, and that is this one from Natasha Denona. This is the Mini Retro. Out of all the palettes that Natasha Denona has released this year, this to me is the most unique. It's the most different. It's going in a direction that I think is so different from what I'm seeing in the industry. I love it. I think that the color story in here is so gorgeous. On my skin tone, this translates amazing. This greenish gray color is the most beautiful, all over the lid shade, deepening shade. This color right here is insanely beautiful. It actually has a gray shift to it. So when you look at it in the pan, you think it's green, but actually when it swatches, you can kind of see that it has like a gray shift to it. Most people will not have something like this in their collection unless you have the Starry Eyes to Hypnotize. You might have something similar, or if you have her big pan palette, I think it's the 28 pan palette. This is called Industrial. It's in that palette. But this is a gorgeous shade. The only thing with this entire palette is that these two colors, in my opinion, are a little bit too close in color, but I use this palette so much, and every time I use this palette, I get comments like, what are you wearing on your eyes? Oh my goodness, that color looks amazing. Whether it be on Instagram, I do these short Instagram tutorials and I do all these really cool makeup looks. If you guys aren't following me at Christina Brooke Beauty, you guys should follow me over there because I do a lot more makeup tutorial type of short makeup tutorials on Instagram to show you guys the techniques, or like if you like this look and you're like, I wish she would show me how to do it. It's all on Instagram because YouTube, it just doesn't work on YouTube. It's better to put on Instagram, so follow me over there. But like I was saying, every time I use this one, Insta tutorial, or if I even have it on in a YouTube video, I get so many comments on it. So you know that something in this palette is going right if every time I use it, somebody says something. And that's how I feel. Every time I use this, somebody said something. This is a very easy to use palette. It's very pretty, very airy, very soft. I love it, and it's one of my favorites. I will say though, guys, like I honestly feel like the reason it is one of my favorites is because the tones in here are different. These 3 tones right here just create the most beautiful color story. It just literally is gorgeous. And I want her to come out with a big one of these. I keep saying this because I want the Natasha Denona gods to hear me and just make this into a midi or even like a full size. I don't care. I'll pay $100 and something if this is done the right way, but I love this palette. And as of right now, it is my favorite. If I look at all of these, I want to use this every single time. I really want to use this. I do know that this palette gives me all the looks I would ever want in one palette, but I want to use this. Do you know what I mean? So anyways, guys, that is my ranking video of the palettes that I've purchased this month and me babbling on every single one of them about everything I possibly can tell you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Of course, this is only the mid-year. Well, it's not really mid-year. It's like a little bit more than mid-year, but this is all I've bought in this year, which I'm very proud of myself because I used to buy a lot more eyeshadow palettes and I'm being very selective. So anyways, I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. If you guys did, don't forget, thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and yeah, I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.